Hello everybody, this is a Lamley showcase. Time to put a bow on Ferrari for 2025. This was the story of the year when it comes to Hot Wheels. It was earlier this year that Hot Wheels dropped the big news, and within seconds really they announced the news, did an RLC sale, and then we saw it coming in like a fire hose. Basics, premium, RLC, team transport. Might even be a couple more surprises before the year is over, but ultimately Ferrari made a big play in the Hot Wheels world, and we were all here to eat it up. So I don't need to review all these models. We've seen enough of them. I've definitely covered them over and over again, especially as we go into 2026. But I thought now that we have seen everything released for 2025, I would do a new versus old showcase. A lot of these castings, while they are brand new for this year and everything that's been released Ferrari related by Hot Wheels, they put all of the castings to bed from the old era. Everything moving forward is going to be new. So Ferrari F40, obviously the F50, everything is new, but many of these have old era counterparts. And so we are going to showcase them right next to each other and kind of, I don't know, we can do a competition to see, do you like the new stuff better than the old stuff? Just kind of a bit of a time to compare and contrast, and we as collectors always like to see that. And you can always see, do you want the old stuff? If you're just picking up the new stuff, if you're a newer collector, is it worth getting the old stuff? Well, let's find out. So the first thing we got to do, I've got everything carded here, of course. We've got everything, most of these things open. We've got the Ferrari F40 and its recolor. We have the 365 GTB4 Competizione and its recolor in yellow. Both of these were just recently released. The Ferrari SF Stradale, SF90 Stradale. This one does not have a new counterpart. So we can talk about this one very quickly. Let's get all the models that don't have an old era counterpart models out of the way. Obviously the Ferrari SF90 was released since, what was it, 2014 that we lost the Ferrari license. So this one definitely does not have a counterpart. You could pull out the 458 or something, just, you know, some of these signature Ferrari models, but we technically don't have anything close to this model. This one was released in red. We've also seen the recolor in gray. There's a 5-pack version, which I don't have. And then, of course, I think those that have gotten the B case overseas, there's a blue version of this casting as well. So we're already on the 4th version of this casting in 2026. So that one we don't have a counterpart for. We definitely have this model. We'll be getting to that very soon. And then over here, we have an F50 that will definitely be played. The LaFerrari, we've got an old version of that. But these two, another one, we could definitely go racing Ferrari. But the Ferrari 499P that we saw in Circuit Legends, obviously that one doesn't have a counterpart. We've seen one of those. And then, of course, there's a second version because we had the chase version of the 499P in beautiful jet black. And then, of course, we had the Modificata, which I can pull out right here from RLC. I don't have the packaging of this one. Obviously, this was the 2-car set. The debut of Ferrari, obviously, was this one, the 499P Modificata, along with the 312. We'll get to that one, obviously, in a little bit. But this model with the, of course, the really cool opening part and the opening engine, this one is a signature piece as well. We'll let the Lamley Awards play out to figure out what was collector's favorite Ferrari this year, because I think that is going to, well, I think most of these will show up in one form or the other in the big Model of the Year tournament we do. But ultimately, that one was not, this one did not have a counterpart either. We could go with, you know, like current racing cars of the era, but I don't think that works out quite, I mean, I don't know. I guess this one from Racers, but see, you know, it just, there's really no comparison with these as well. So you've got those, but everything else released has an old era counterpart. So white gloves are coming on, and we are going to do a compare and contrast. All right, let's start with this one. We will go in order of release from RLC to basic to premium and back and forth, but we start with RLC. Obviously, the very first Ferrari release in this new era was the RLC set with the 499P Modificata designed by Ron Wong. and the 312P designed by Brendan Vituski. Brendan Vituski, of all the designers, probably has the most knowledge of a lot of the classic pieces, so it was great. And he also does RLC, of course. So this was kind of the perfect one for him to design. And of course, the reason it was designed and done as a duo with the 49P Modificato was to kind of show the old era versus the new era of Ferrari. And this is the very first, or this is an homage to the very first Hot Wheels Ferrari, the 312P. This one, obviously, everything, like I said, was built from scratch. And so what Brendan Vituski did was pay homage to the original, but do some updates on it that would definitely play as a more modern take, a more modern design of the Ferrari. And there's a few very distinct things. We'll get out the its counterpart here in just a second. But obviously Spectre Flame Red, you've got the Neo wheels, which are the throwback to the old Redline era. That was obviously on purpose. If we put this down and we bring in the classic, it's kind of fun to compare. Now, this is not an era I collect. I actually had to go to eBay and I found a decent one. I didn't need it mint. I just needed a good representation of the casting. There are a ton of versions of this one, obviously in a lot of Spectre Flame colors, but I like this one in the plain red with the number 60 decals on it, the Ferrari logo on the side. And I am not versed in this era, obviously, and so there probably are a lot of like little neat facts about this casting that some of the Redline collectors could share, and if they want to share in the comments, it would be fantastic. But I had to get this car. It's the only Redline I have in my possession now. I don't know if I'll keep it, but right now I definitely wanted to have it to do this compare and contrast. Obviously, one-seater. You've got the engine exposed, which is different. You have the opening part, which shows this exposed engine, which is actually pretty well done, all things considered. If the year is on this... Yeah, 1969 was the year that this was actually produced. Obviously in that different direction than we are used to. That was an homage by Brendan. That's one of the reasons he did it in that direction. And then obviously you can see some other things. This is Redline. You can see that the way the wheels are positioned, obviously with some of the more modern techniques of design and production, they can put the wheels, they can position the wheels just slightly different, maybe in more of a racing position than they have in the past. The detailing is obviously very different from one to the other. It's obviously more precise in the new one, but you do get a sense of what's still there. You still get a sense of like old school Hot Wheels as well. Now, if you look at this, you see the proportions are slightly different. You see exposed engine here, you see not exposed here. And then one thing that Brendan did do, this opens this way, but Brendan said, well, we got to do the way it's actually supposed to open. So this one opens the correct way, showing off a little bit more detail in the engine. So you can't do a real compare and contrast, but you can see that it's the same engine, just done in a proper angle. And obviously you can see a few more details on the new one versus the old one. All things considered, though, it's actually pretty cool. So you get several things here. You get obviously an opportunity to appreciate the old version, the old casting from a different era. Obviously something that plays into the classic era of the Redlines, and all of what Hot Wheels, what we collect now, is kind of based on this, and that direction that Hot Wheels originally took way back when, as it was an upstart from Mattel. And then of course you just get a beautiful homage to that casting by Brendan Vituski, but with a lot of the modern elements that the Hot Wheels design team can work with now. And it's just a beautiful compare and contrast. Of course, I said, who knows if I keep this one, but it's really nice to have the two together, at least right now. So there's the first one. I mean, if we want to choose which one is better, I guess it really depends on the era you are really more into. I mean, the better casting, of course, is the new one. But is it really better than the classic toy? That's a hard call. We might have a better idea moving into some of these other models. Which leads to this one, the Ferrari F40. It is probably, since Ferrari left Hot Wheels, this car, the actual F40, has probably taken on an even more iconic role. It's always been an incredible car, and it's always been one of Ferrari fans' favorite cars, but it does seem to have taken on even a bigger role in the collector world than it used to. in terms of like how it fits in with like legacy Ferraris. Nonetheless, this was a no-brainer for Hot Wheels, and we get a Ferrari F40, which is great. This is obviously a little bit different. This is the F40 Competizione, more of a racing version of the Ferrari F40. And of the basics, of the three that were released, the three basics that have been released, I would say this has been the most sought after of those. Of course, we know that there's the recolor in yellow that is in the Q cases, in the A cases that's out pretty much right about now. And we know coming very soon will be, I think in the C case or D case, is the black Ferrari F40, the first version of 2026, which also has a super treasure hunt counterpart, which will obviously be highly, highly sought after. Now let's talk about the casting itself. I'm going to be honest, and we'll talk more about this when we do the Lamley Awards. Of the three basic releases, this is the weakest. I'm happy that we've seen it in basic. I know that the Ferrari F40, when you see it in person, is a little smaller than maybe it comes across in pictures. This one obviously has some detail, and I really like the split in the spoiler. Obviously, the very nice detail is the headlights in the front. I'm glad that the wheels are the same size. I think that's something that collectors like a lot better these days, and we'll obviously compare it to the old Ferrari F40. But while this is a massive improvement over the old one, I'm still not totally into this casting. There's just something slightly off about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. That being said, on its own, it's good. There's just, I don't know what it is. It just almost, it feels a little too small compared to the others. But let's look at the Ferrari F40 previous. If we want to make this one look really good, all we have to do is pull out the old version of the Ferrari F40, and it's a no-brainer. I have a couple that I've picked. In fact, this is a Ferrari Racers version of the Ferrari F40. This one almost even more so than the 312P of the Redline era. This one definitely comes from a different era. This is what year was this one? 1988. It's a little rudimentary. It has the opening part, which I think people will sometimes get excited about, but huge gaps. It's not really showing that much detail in the Ferrari F40. The wheels are, well, that's a signature Hot Wheels detail, is the big wheels in the back, small in the front, which wouldn't bother me too much. The casting is too narrow. The details are a little rudimentary. It just doesn't look good. They tried to do a premium version. Well, they did do a premium version in the first Boulevard. This would maybe have been 2012, 2013. In red with that black lower portion. It's still the same casting. It has real riders on it, which are okay. It's got, I mean, the real riders look good. It has this kind of, we saw this with like the Beetle, like it's a portion, I guess, of maybe the chassis creates the brake for the headlights, which is a cool thing, maybe cool at the time. It doesn't work as well as as them using the window to show that headlight brake. It's just not a great casting. We also know that this casting, right before Hot Wheels lost the license to Ferrari, in order to make a cheaper production version, they actually sealed this one, retooled it, and I actually have one. I had to go to eBay to get this. It was only released once without the opening portion. I just found this beat up one on eBay and I bought it. I don't need it to be too particularly fancy. It's better, actually. You can see that the detailing on the back is better compared to the old one. It just has a little bit of a better proportion to it. It does look like it was slightly retooled all the way around. Obviously, they changed the headlights too. So it actually, if you remove the opening part, it actually is a better proportion casting. So if we took the old version, then brought in the new version, that's not bad. It does look like a better proportion casting. And then you show it next to this one. First thing you notice, there are some details on the new one that are better, but the new one looks a little, I don't know, it just looks a little small. It's better proportioned, it is, from that perspective. I don't know if I can pinpoint what seems off about this Ferrari F40, but the new one. I know what's off about the proportions are wrong on the old one. This one, the proportions are better, but they still seem a little bit slightly off. I don't know. The best F40 in a basic range, you know, you can go to some of the premiums, but the best F40 remains Matchbox. Matchbox is from I think the same year, 1988. It obviously is from a time that, you know, the castings were different, the wheels are different. Obviously, there's some details that wouldn't be, but that is still the better F40. And they were doing the little window thing back then already. It's just, this remains the gold standard for a, you know, would I say basic? I guess a basic level, like toy level Ferrari F40. The gold standard remains the Matchbox F40. This is a decent one. It's better than that one, which is definitely better than that one, but they're not going to catch up to, not yet at least, unless we see this somehow, unless we see the F40 somehow reemerge in some other line as a totally redone casting. So far, Hot Wheels F40s don't pass the Matchbox Classic, in my opinion. All right, let's keep on going. All right, if we're going in order, I believe this one was next. We had this one in the K or the L case, and then this one right afterwards, if I remember correctly. This is the third basic from Hot Wheels. We have, I think, a few more coming out in 2026, but this was the third of 3 in 2025. This is the Ferrari 365 GTB4 Competizione as well, just like the F40. So a racing version. Rob Mathis did this. If you saw, he talked about this casting, why he wanted to do this casting once Ferrari was returned to Hot Wheels when we did the sneak peeks with him. So what we have here, kind of like the F40, it's slightly different than the old casting, but we do have a couple of versions that definitely fit in a compare and contrast. This model, well, I guess I should show, right? We do have a recolor of that one in yellow, I think so far. I can't remember. I did see the next versions coming out in 2026, but I don't know if they've been shown yet, so I won't show them yet. But this is the recolor released in the Q case in 2025, right? So we have those two versions of this casting. Beautiful, beautiful casting, classic racing car. A lot of things that we could compare to. Now, I had to pull out, we have the Competizione of the 365. We also have, back from the old era, the Ferrari 365 GTB4. Not the Competizione, so it is slightly different, but it is essentially the same. When you're looking at silhouettes, you get the sense that these are the same cars. And again, we'd have to go into Ferrari racing history to see all the differences of the actual cars, but you are seeing here that there is, you know, a similar shape to these cars, but some differences too. What's hard to know on this one, and I would love, again, the experts that are watching this video, get in there and leave some comments about these cars, is how much is a difference in the castings themselves, like just in the development of the castings, and how much is a difference in the Competizione versus, say, the non-Competizione of the GTB4. There's obviously some similarities, but then there's like a very distinct difference in the noses. This one, obviously, I think maybe the Competizione did not have the bumpers. This one does. I don't know if it was defined by the lack of bumpers, among other things, and this one had bumpers. But ultimately, this is a basic. This was, I think, released originally as a basic. It has a metal chassis. This one is from Ferrari Racers. I have very few complaints about this casting, to be honest. It does not look as different, say, as maybe like the F40. What year was this one developed? 1999, so a little bit more modern. Still over 25 years old. But it has held its own, and we've seen it in basic. We've seen it in Ferrari Racers. We've seen premium versions, I believe, of it. Yeah, I know we have, actually, in Garage and things. This was always one of the Ferrari castings from the old era that I thought was really well represented. And I don't have much to complain about this casting. And I feel like if these were released at the same time, you get two very different cars with two very different kinds of details. I don't think I don't think the new one exposes the old one of one with showing lack of details. Some people will say they like the metal chassis coming from this one. Obviously, this one could get one if it goes premium or something. But ultimately, I feel like they're two very distinct castings that are very much worth collecting. There's also, you can also pull out the GTS4, the 365 GTS4, which is the convertible version. This was actually a Valentine's car, a Valentine's line car that was released, I don't know, maybe 10, I don't know, more than that, 15 to 20 years ago. Quite clean. It's the same casting, of course, essentially the same casting. There's the plastic versus chassis, or versus plastic chassis, but it's essentially the same, just one is a convertible and obviously the other is the hardtop. But so you're seeing some, you know, essentially the same kind of detailing that both of the castings have, and then when they're compared to the new one, it's pretty much the same outside of course, the obvious comparison, which is the lack of a top. So in this case, I don't feel like the new one, as great as it is a huge upgrade from the old one. I think they're all awesome. And so I would say in this case, they're great to have all of them. I don't know what reasoning I'm trying to get to. I'm just kind of showing them all, but Ferrari F40 was a major upgrade, even though I still think it deserves an even bigger upgrade. The 312P is such a historic piece versus the new one that I think they're very nice together. But these GTB, the GTB and the GTS, right? I got to make sure I got these names right. The 365, we'll just say 365. I think these are very nice together. Like, you have true, like, great castings and a pretty well developed family of these cars, and they do look really, really good together. All right, let's keep going. All right, let's talk about maybe one of two absolute no-brainers, absolute upgrades from the previous era. This is the LaFerrari, the Ferrari LaFerrari, but more properly just called the LaFerrari. Done for premium in Eurospeed by Ron Wong. And in this case, what's funny is Eurospeed, when you think about Circuit Legends all the way through Timeless Icons with the Ferrari F50, those mixes were insane. And this might have been the weakest mix of these car culture mixes, but may have had the best model, which is the LaFerrari. We'll get to that as we do the Lamley Awards. But this LaFerrari is a stunner. And Ron Wong at his best. We are all big fans of Ron Wong. We had the sneak peeks with him. He's working on a Testarossa. We know that. Lots of other things that he's doing. And he wanted to take on, as a supercar fan and a Ferrari fan, I think this was, and he has said this was high on his list. And when Ferrari came back, this was one of the first ones he really, really wanted to work on. Now, the LaFerrari has existed in the past, but I just want to celebrate how great this casting is. Ron was able to get the iconic side mirrors included in the interior, and then use that. I think they pop out of the window piece, so they actually are quite secure. Would be very hard to break off if you wanted to. The proportions, the way the car sits from every angle, every 3/4 angle, the side view, the front view, it just captures how wild and really stunning the LaFerrari is. And then you remember that the LaFerrari was, I believe, the last or one of the last castings done in the old era. In fact, there were only two versions, but I believe this one was the final Ferrari produced before they lost the license. And while it was cool to see Hot Wheels do a LaFerrari, it's a disaster. Just a disaster. Now, there's always been some love for this casting. It might have been because it was one of the final castings released by Hot Wheels in the Ferrari era. It does have more of a retro throwback vibe. This was a time when Hot Wheels was still trying to kind of stay true to their origins of the big wheels in the back, which I can't argue with because that's what Hot Wheels were based off of. But I think they understand now that collectors are looking for a different kind of proportion in the cars that they collect. So I don't hate the casting because it has bigger wheels in the back, but they do throw off the lines of this casting. And when you start looking at this compared to a real LaFerrari, and you can almost just do it with Ron's, you start seeing the fight that was going on with the casting when it comes to the wheel proportions, when it comes to the nose. Ron Ron was able to create a little bit more of how the LaFerrari was actually built in the front. A basic car, you know, you can't show some of the details, but they're there, but they're not great. So the nose was a bit smushed. The lines are definitely scrunched. It just is not very sleek. This one really didn't work. And when you compare it, I think this is something that would have been welcome even if we never lost the Ferrari license, to get an upgraded, beautiful Ferrari, LaFerrari. And this isn't just, and because of that break, maybe we all benefit, because we sure wouldn't want this one to be upgraded into premium and put in some sort of car culture line. So thank goodness for this one. Maybe the best Ferrari of all of them. I guess we'll figure that out. All right, 250 GTO. This is very much the opposite of the contrast between the LaFerrari and its old version. This is Ron's design as well. I think everything that we will get to now are all Ron Wong designs. This is the 250 GTO. When we talk about iconic Ferraris, of course, this one might be the most valuable. I mean, there might be others. Again, someone's going to correct me, and they should put it in the comments. But I know this one, historically, versions of this car have sold for millions and millions of dollars. We've seen them crash at Goodwood. We've seen some crazy, crazy stuff. But this is a stunner of a casting, and definitely represents that 60s era Ferraris that were just, I mean, the curves were beautiful and maybe not safe, but gorgeous. And Ron did an excellent job of capturing those lines with this casting, from the nose, which kind of slants really forward and down in the front, and then curves around to the back. That, you know, I've seen different versions of this car. I think because they were hand built, you know, there's different curves, and I've even read about that some of these, you know, if you put them side by side, you'll see differences in kind of the silhouettes of these cars. But I think Ron captured really how low to the ground, how kind of round, and kind of how, I don't know, how they just kind of hug the ground even when they're standing still. I think it's a beautiful casting, and this is a beautiful representation of a truly beautiful car. And we've seen the 250 GTO before. Now, I don't know if, I think this is just, yeah, 250 GTO. I pulled out the premium. This one started as a basic, was moved to premium. This was in the Garage Series, I believe. And when you look at it, it's quite pretty itself. This has always been a favorite casting of mine from a Ferrari standpoint. I think I have most, if not all, of the releases. There were 2 premium releases, this red one, and then a gray, like, multi-pack version. But I did notice on this one that it did seem to sit a little bit high, a little too high in the back. It looked too elevated, too thick, and just not as sleek the way the car itself would kind of like slant down. Like the angle needs to be slanting down a little bit more in the back. While I don't know if these are exactly, if Ron went off the exact same car, you can see some differences, and you could just say, like, maybe this is just 2 different cars, but they are the 250 GTO. And the most noticeable difference, well, here's the front. The most notable difference is the slope of the back of the new one versus the old one. Not enough for me to dislike the old one. I really do like the old one, but this one captures that angle just that much better that it's quite noticeable. The exhausts really do shoot out a little bit more on Ron's casting, and that actually makes him look a little bit more realistic. And yeah, you just get a rounder, again, a sexier angle, I guess is the best way I would put it. So great casting, excellent casting. This one might be one of the closer old versus new, which is quite different from the LaFerrari from before and what we're doing next. We finish with Ron Wong's Ferrari F50, which debuts in the Timeless Icon set, the final car culture mix of 2025. And yeah, another iconic car. I would think in terms of like that bridge between the classic Ferrari to the new Ferrari, so like this 499s on the new side, the 250 on the old side, the F40 and the F50 are definitely the 2 bridge cars You could probably put the Testarossa in there with it too, but these two supercars in terms of like iconic Ferraris are a big freaking deal. And I think it's fantastic that we got an F40 and an F50 in its debut, in its return to Hot Wheels right in the first year. Ferrari F50, Ron's design. I mean, are any of us going to complain about Ron's designs? I'm not. I mean, he did the 499P, both of them. He did the LaFerrari. He did the 250 GTO. And I know he said I won't say anything. I think he's probably working on more Ferraris. I wouldn't be surprised if he is. But yeah, he did the F50 and he nailed it. The F50, same thing. There's Matchbox did it. They did an okay job. It's very big. This is the best version of the F50. It's got the side mirrors. Ron makes sure of that. Post F40 slope that the F50 has, which is fantastic. The back side of it is really, really well done. Super detailed. The exhausts are really cool. And yes, this is an upgraded version from the old one. So like I said, like the LaFerraris, you got to focus on the new one and then see the old one and you just go, oh no, because, oh no, this ain't good. First off, you just put it next to each other and you can see the size difference. You can also see the way the old one sits. Oh man, it's bad. It's bad. Check that out. This one sits too high in the front. You can see, if you compare them, you can look at the noses. They're way out of, the old one is way out of proportion. If you look at, I mean, the side is not even funny. You can see the narrowed nose here, the kind of too pointy nose. And that might have been so it could be conducive to the track. This one started as a basic. You can see that the backside on the old one sits a little too flat. And it's just, the casting is just entirely too small. In fact, the new F40 might be the predecessor to the old F50 if I'm looking at it. This doesn't look like a supercar, does it? It almost looks like it's if someone took their Miata and put a Ferrari F50 wing on it. That's the vibe I get from this one. It looks like a kit car. This looks like an actual Ferrari F50. Now you might say to yourself, well, wait, isn't there another one? And yes, there is, and it is far better than the old one. In 1996, Hot Wheels released an open-top F50. And I'm trying to see. It doesn't even say. I guess it would say on the back. No, it doesn't even say on the back. I just got this one. This is another one I bought. Oh, it just says Ferrari F50. There it is right there. I bought this one to do this comparison, and the card came just so cool and crisp. I have not wanted to open it, but it's just so nice, and I know there's people out there that would want to have a nice carded version, and so I get hesitant to do it. But now you see a much, much better proportion model, and actually quite well done when you look at it. I think the noses on the premium on Ron's new model is far better than the old one, but at least size-wise and proportion-wise, this old one, the open top might be slightly bigger, but definitely better. But definitely not as much of a contrast between the old one and the new one. I don't want to open that one. It's just so... I always try and find one on a destroyed card because my collection changes all the time. But I don't know. That's just, it's such a crisp card. It just doesn't feel right I don't know. Because I'm going to collect this model, but I definitely wanted one to show, and so I bought this one on eBay, or no, on Whatnot, and the card is just too crisp. I'm going to keep it packaged. I just am, because I've got these from my Ferrari Racers collection. I've got this one now that Ron Wong has done, and I know we're going to get, obviously, future versions of this casting. This is not one I would have kept anyway, so I'm going to keep this one carded. But nonetheless, massive difference. Not as big a difference between those two. And there you go. So tell me in the comments, what was your favorite Ferrari this year? Was it the F40, the F50, the 312, the 499P Modificata, the 499P? Here, I should put that one there too. SF90. I mean, there's a ton of Ferraris. The 250 GTO. What was your favorite set? Was it the RLC? Was it the Team Transport? That Team Transport set is insanely cool. But there was just a lot of Ferrari and a lot of really, really good Ferrari. And I want you guys to tell me what you think. Obviously, a lot more to come in 2026. But we sure didn't have a bad 2025. Let's put it to bed. Any old castings you like better than the new castings? I'd love to know if there is. That's number one. And number two, which one was your favorite of the Ferrari castings, releases, everything? Just leave me a lot of comments. I would love to see, and I know Mattel would love to see too, what your feelings were on the Ferrari releases this year. Thank you, everybody. Bye.